Welcome back to the 16th episode of the Happiness Project, and thank you for tuning in. As you all know, my podcast is now listed on 8 plus platforms, including Apple, Spotify, and Google. And with the staunch support from you guys, my podcast has now reached to more than 50 countries. Thank you so much for all your support. Please keep sharing your learnings and experiences of how my podcast has transformed your life in every little way possible. In the middle of COVID 19, today, give yourself permission to be outrageously kind, irrationally warm, improbably generous. I'm sure the title itself will pull you towards listening to this episode today because who doesn't want to hear something positive, especially when we are waking up every single day to the negative news around us? And very honestly, we cannot overlook the various emotional states that continue to impact us all globally. Although, with all the tragic things happening in the world right now, it's like an unusual time to talk about being positive. Yet, staying positive, hopeful, and optimistic can help us all to get through in these difficult times. We all know that the situation will improve eventually, but right now, dwelling into these thoughts like when, how long, what's going to happen, we are trying to control the present experience of living. And this, in turn, is making us all very anxious and creating panic within all of us. If you're scared, if you're afraid, you are not alone. And to be honest, this is a natural response to a situation like this. Now, what's not okay is to question that response as to why am I scared? You need to understand that this is what most of us are going through, and I promise you that we will all get through this together. The reason I'm doing this episode today is because I sense so much of panic and worry in many of us. And if there's any way I can make you feel good and make a small difference in your life, I feel this is the time, and I want to be able to give in everything in my capability. This is when so many of you need to hear this and need some strong support system. That is what I realized in the middle of COVID 19, that this is exactly how I want to make a difference in the world. And there's no better time than this, and there never will be. I am currently in London, however, I've been in constant touch with my family back home in India. And after having spoken to them, one thing I understand is the most challenging right now is that people are being affected to adjust themselves to the new normal. While stress is an absolutely normal and extremely healthy reaction, there is definitely something different that we can do. Understand that there are a lot of things that are not in your control. From the duration of the virus, the spread of the virus, the impact on the economy, the attitude of people around you, the health of your loved ones, unemployment, restrictions, fear, and chaos. But there definitely are a few things that are in your control. The moment you start focusing on everything that is in your control, you will begin to understand that not everything is out of control. 2020 is certainly the year of uncertainty, but what we can control is how we show up and deliver every day. So, right now, there are a couple of things that I can control. For instance, how I talk to myself Am I being mindful of my eating habits? Since many of us are living with our families, there are going to be triggers that will create irritation, frustration, anger, stress. So, how I react to people around me is also something that is in my control. Creating a new routine in the new normal, taking a moment to be present without filling my mind with external or internal things. Simply breathing and observing the process of my breath. In many European countries, the government has allowed individuals to step out for one form of exercise, from running to jogging, cycling, every day. So why not step out for some fresh air? Doing yoga and meditation, watching some informative documentaries and watching it with your family, learning an online course, cooking and baking because it is a therapy, supporting your loved ones and building courage. For now, I have named a few things that are in your control, and I'm sure to each its own. So find something that you can hook on and allow yourself to completely immerse in the process of transformation. Fairly, you and I both wish that this shouldn't have happened during our time, but that is not for us to decide. All we have to decide is what we do with the time that we have in our hands right now. We are all playing a significant role in the time of history. This period is going to be spoken about forever. Your children and your grandchildren are going to ask you about this time in particular, because this has been the greatest pandemic in the last 100 years, and economic fallout is sure going to follow. Now, what is going to make a difference is how you manage the nature of this event. And very importantly, what role are you individually playing in the event of occurrence? Are you allowing yourself to play a victim or a strong survivor? And as I always say, it's a choice that you make every single time. I see so many emotional stories of doctors, nurses, and all the healthcare workers, grocery store workers, putting their lives at risk by helping so many strangers during these crises. They are the real heroes. They make a choice every single day to simply give beyond limits. This is my sincere thanks to all of them who have helped us get through this so far and continue to do so all along. There is so much of prayer, wishes, and support coming your way. Again, thank you so much to all of them who continue to put their lives at service for the entire world out there. Moving on, I am now going to share a few practical things that we can all do to foster positive emotions. Number one, recognizing and managing your emotional state and knowing your red flags. So, one way you can manage moments of stress and anxiety is by identifying thoughts and physical reactions that tend to contribute into making you feel overwhelmed. By focusing on your thoughts, you can identify your feelings mentally and physically that amplify negative emotional spirals. What Eckhart Tolle suggests you to do is to become aware of the difference between the situation you find yourself in and the mental commentary about the situation. What he's trying to tell us is that most of us talk to ourselves quite often. Even if we don't, our mind is constantly active and reacting. Usually, our mind has a way to exaggerate every single thought, feeling, and situation, which in turn leads to making us feel stressed, anxious, and unhappy. From my personal experience, I would recommend you to do an emotional auditing every day in the morning. You could also do it in the night before you fall asleep. Now than ever is a critical moment to learn how to master the moment. I have started checking up on myself the first thing in the morning after my meditation. What I do is I simply ask myself a few questions that help better define my day and allows me a direction for the day. Questions like, how am I feeling today? How are my thoughts? Am I thinking positively for myself and others around me? If not, what is coming in my way? Is my mind controlling my actions to live comprehensively? What needs my focus today? Am I trying to be present every day? Present in a way where I am totally where I am, experiencing life moment by moment. Am I coming in my own way? If yes, what can I do differently? These questions help me to take charge of my emotions and how I want to experience today. It also gives me the power to make my own decisions and the ability to master any moment. The goal is to decide every day for yourself and do something differently to experience healthy emotions throughout the day. Number 2, reinvent yourself. Mindset is what separates the best from the rest. There is an author named Marianne Williamson who said that you must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be. Either you can sit there and worry about what's going to happen, or get up and do what needs to be done. Now is the time to expand your consciousness by contributing in the evolution needed to usher humanity into a better place to live in. The key thing to remind ourselves that we can take this opportunity to slow down a little bit and get fine-tuned on what we want in life. This is the time to bring our lives into perspective. You should take this opportunity to really get fine-tuned on what you want out of life. How do you want to make a difference in this world? This is a good time to reflect, and for many of us, it could be scary. And I know that it can be scary to reflect on what's next. Too many of us are concerned about the future, and we don't know what will happen after all of this is said and done. So, first things first, figure out where you are. Figure out where you want to be. Map it out and take the steps you need to take. Be in the moment, because too often we go through life on autopilot and then things are taken away from us, whether it's a loved one, an opportunity to go to the bar, or that restaurant that we love, to just be out at a concert or a sporting event. Figure out what you want to do when all of this is behind us, and figure out a way to live your life a little better than you did before. Number 3, find yourself a mentor. You don't have to go through this by yourself when you can reach out to people for help. Find someone to talk to besides your family you are quarantined with. It's a wise decision to look for a qualified coach, psychologist, counselor, and sometimes even a friend. This person needs to be someone who can help you look at life from a different perspective, someone who knows your potential, and someone who can simply make you feel good about yourself. Someone who listens without any judgments and biases. Since I know a lot of people who need help to get through the situation, but unfortunately are unable to receive that help. For that reason, I have mentioned my email ID in this episode for you to write to me and ultimately connect virtually via audio calls or video calls and arrange a coaching and a counseling session. Please feel free to write to me at any point of time during and after this unfortunate series of events. To conclude, it's a very natural feeling to be overpowered and terrified by all the waves of COVID-19. But I genuinely hope this episode helped you break the transmission of negativity and gave you an insight into experiencing a little ray of happiness and positivity. We are in the middle of a highly teachable moment. There is no doubt that this period will be referred to for the rest of our lifetimes. We have a chance to go deep and to go broad. Globally, we are all in it together. Depth is being forced on us by great suffering, which Richard Rohr always says leads to great love. Thank you for joining me this week on the Happiness Project. Stay tuned and make sure you never miss a single episode of the show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you so much for all your support. And if you like this episode, please share it with as many people as you can. Because sometimes all it takes is one push for someone to transform their lives. Let this podcast be that push.